Welcome to Gardening Hacks. This is the garden tour for May 13th, 2023, and it is my first garden tour. Some of this garden was established last year. I had some bad dirt, so I kind of had to start over this year, but this is what's here this year. And I kind of got a stick so I can show y'all a little bit because it's getting bushy. This is my zucchini. It's just the regular zucchini like you get in the store, green zucchini. And this just started blooming about a week ago and having fruit in it. I picked one and I see there's two more in there. Starting to have some bug pressure. This is the gigantic zucchini, round ball zucchini with all these gigantic leaves on it. You can see there's a lot starting to bloom in there. There you go. You can see it right there. There's a big one I need to get out of there. The round zucchini, you're about baseball to softball size is when you want to harvest it. But it has been doing really good. This plant's been here for a couple of months. Starting this month, I picked one off of it last month. And so far this month, I've picked 10 off of it. Seeing quite a few more. We've had some bad rain for a few days and got some worm pressure in here and ended up having to put some 7 dust on my garden to try to get rid of the worms. It seems to be coming back. The worms aren't all gone, but they are much better. One interesting thing about this is see the color of that one, the dark green with the light green on it, and then I'm going to pull you back over here. Okay, how that one's light green down there. It's the same seeds, but it's giving me two different colors. So I see a lot of people saying the round ball zucchini, they plant it and then they have one in there that doesn't look like the rest of them. Well, it seems to be a normal thing for them to come out in different colors. I'll turn y'all around and go over to this little bed. This is my cucumber bed. It's really hot here in South Louisiana during the summer, so my cucumbers have to have a shade. So when I made this trellis a few years back, we ended up having to go back on it and put a canopy over the top of it. But it's doing really good. And there you go. It started blooming a couple weeks ago, and right there is a pretty good sized cucumber, pickling cucumber. There's quite a few more coming on in there. That's coming along great. I'll be picking cucumbers here in a week or so, hopefully. That one I might be picking sooner than that. And then I just had some extra space in here, so I had some peppers I started from seed that have got some bug pressure on them too. It's just mixed sweet peppers. I have to get some more spray or something on them. But they're coming up pretty good. Let me go over here to this long bed that I have. And this is pretty much tomatoes. I have a few things left from the fall still in here. The most of this was started from seed. Some of it is volunteers, and some of it I had to replant the store-bought ones because I had a late freeze that killed off a bunch of stuff. This is a volunteer tiny, what were they called? Tiny taster tomatoes, little round cherry tomatoes that I had last year, and must have dropped some seeds because that one came back. I had quite a few more before the frost came, but that was hiding under this celery that I picked like 4 times since I planted it last year. I planted it last fall. It didn't really do anything. Just kind of sat really small, and I didn't think it was going to do anything. And in about January, it started growing and waking up. There's another big tomato plant mixed in there. A lot of the tomato plants are starting to get little blossoms on them. So, yay. So I make sure I shake the tomatoes every day to help those things get fertilized. That back there is just a volunteer wildflower that always comes back. It's really pretty, and the bees seem to like it, so I leave it. This is some zinnia flowers. They're getting about ready to start having flowers on them. And this is a balloon flower that I planted last spring that I bought that didn't do very good, but it's a perennial. I always try to buy perennials when I buy flowers. It's coming back and it's really pretty. So it adds a nice little bit of color. This back here, get this off of it, that is some cucumbers I'm hoping will grow up the back of this fence on the back of the garden. I just scattered some seeds in a couple of places just to get some extra. I believe that is the Armenian white cucumber, maybe. Tried some new ones this year to see if they would be better with our heat and humidity, and that was one of the ones that said it was supposed to be. So we got those growing back there, and we'll see what they do. Here's some more tomatoes. Most of my tomatoes are cherry tomatoes or small paste tomatoes. I have a few slicers in here, but they don't really make it before it gets so hot. You're just trying to keep the plant alive. The slicers, I'm hoping that they'll do better in the fall. But these cherry tomatoes don't seem to mind as bad, and you get a lot of tomatoes out of them before the bugs start eating them all. We usually have to stop in July and August and wait for it to cool down a little bit before our gardens pick back up again. You basically have a heat stroke and you're trying to keep the plants alive for the fall because you don't have enough time between fall and winter to regrow new ones. If we can keep these alive, then they'll start blooming again and producing again. So these are the sun golds, which are the yellow cherry tomato. Everybody was saying how good they were, so I decided to get some and put them in. That is some kohlrabi left from last fall's garden, and it was just like the celery. I planted it in the fall when the chart said you're supposed to plant it. It just kind of sat there and didn't want to do anything. And then in about January, it got happy and started growing. I let those two go. I didn't pick them in time because this whole area was covered in them. I was hoping that they would go to seed, but I think the bugs just about got them before they're going to have a chance to do that. But that's okay. If the bugs want to eat that and leave my other stuff alone, that's fine with me. And here's some more tomatoes. That's a carrot. I'm basically doing the same thing with that, just seeing if it'll go to seed. Give me some seeds. I don't know what these pretty flowers are back there. Those big yellow ones right there mixed in with my tomatoes. Look at the way they have the little bell shape on them. It's just a wildflower that showed up, and it's only blooming right there. I'll show you some more of it in a minute. Here, move you around here. Super pretty. A bush. I just don't do anything with it. It just does its thing. And these are some more tomatoes. That's a butterfly bush I just cut down there. It's a perennial. We'll let it grow back up when the tomatoes aren't so busy. And I don't know what's going on with that tomato plant, but I'm gonna leave it and see if it does anything. I pulled one that was doing that, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it, so I'm wondering if it was just the variety. Not like in the heat of the conditions, but I mean, it's got tomatoes in it, so if it's ugly and it's still producing and tomatoes are good, we're gonna keep it. Food is the whole point of the garden. Some more tomatoes. That is my only onion from the fall that's doing anything. Never really bulbed that I could see, but I think it's cool, so I'm just going to leave it there. It's happy. Maybe it'll go to seed and do some seeds or something. These are my deep watering systems that I use for our heat and when we go into drought season. Last year we had about a month with no rain. These things are this height. It's a little over a foot out of the ground, about a foot in the ground. They've got holes down the bottom part of it, half of it, all have holes drilled all up in it. And it's put the water in there. fill them up. It soaks in deeper into the ground, so I'm getting it farther in the ground to help the root systems of the plants. That seemed to work great last year. This is some kale. I had kale all up in here left over from the fall. Did awesome. We didn't eat it all. And after that bad rain where I got the worms came out on the zucchini, I had a problem with the worms all over here. Sprayed them and it didn't help with just the soapy water with some teaspoon of vegetable oil and a teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide to activate the vegetable oil. It kills a lot of bugs on contact, but it didn't do anything against those worms, so I ended up having to seven dust. You can see the granules on the ground. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And this tomato bush split off into three. The middle section was doing awesome. The two side shoots, I wanted to keep them, but they were looking terrible. So I just bent them over and filled in some more dirt. And see if they're rerooted. Maybe they'll come back. If they don't come back now, good. Maybe they'll come back in the fall. And that would give me some tomatoes in the fall. Back here, I dropped a pack of okra seeds that I let overwinter in the garden. When I was pulling the okra bushes out, I dropped a pack of them, well, a pot of them off of the plant that had dried out. And a few days later, I started getting this. So I'm thinking that's a big bushy okra patch. So we want it to grow, so we'll let it grow and see what it'll do. It's planted a little close, but you plant it a little close and you don't have as many weeds. And there might be some surprise food. And this is some more zinnias. Got some little marigold right there. They kind of seem to be stuck. They're not really doing anything, but we'll give them a chance. These are my peppers. I like to do the peppers in groupings. And then my son works in air conditioning, so I use these old air conditioning cages for supports and just put it around it so if they try to lean over, kind of gives them a little bit of support. And they've got a few blooms coming on, so woohoo! Won't be long. Well, it'll be a few weeks, but and this stupid stuff is a vine that keeps coming back in the garden. And what I do for my mulch is I rake up all my leaves that I got left over in my backyard from fall from my oak trees, and I put it in the garden for mulch, and it can just compost in place. There's another tomato. It's looking pretty rough. I added some more soil, see if we can save it. This is another one of those air conditioning cages. And these things, they're wrapped around your air conditioner, the outside unit, and when you get them replaced, your air conditioning replaced, my husband recycles the one for my son. So I just give him to take these off for me before he recycles them so I can use them as caging. They're nice and strong, and a lot of them have a coating on them so they don't rust. This is some more peppers. Got to work on the bug pressure. And there's another deep watering hole. And that's a cabbage that I planted last fall that didn't do anything, and I pulled it out and just threw it over there to compost, and it's just sitting there happy as it can be. It's another little section of wildflowers that are growing. We'll leave them, they're pretty. I don't have to do anything with them. And then this is how I start these gardens. We lay a thick layer of cardboard down. And I just refreshed this one last year. I got another pile over there where I'm going to put some more in to keep the weeds out of it, try to kill the grass off. But when we have the time and the money, we can get some more soil mixture in here. They'll be pretty much ready to go to expand the garden. Turn it all over here. This is the new bed that we're making. So it's cardboard down at the bottom, then sticks and limbs, then compost material from cleaning the garden. Then we start adding the topsoil, which is topsoil and peat moss mix. And we go ahead and we add in 13, 13, 13 is usually what I add into them as we're doing them. So this should be ready for the fall, but it's not ready yet. And over here is one that's ready that we're planting in. And it's just got some baby sprouts coming in. Walk around back over here. We'll look at the circle beds. These are the circle beds. They're just made out of culverts cut up. Got the deep watering system in the middle of them. This one's got rainbow cherry tomatoes. They're starting to produce little tomatoes on them. Got some flowers. I think they got a little stunted too, but these are dwarfs. And there's some kale still hanging in there. This is the kale I got cut off because it was gotten so ate up, and it's, you can see right there, it's starting to grow new kale on it, so we'll leave that alone and see what it'll do. This round bed is a pepper bed, and I'll go in and I'll put a cage around this, and I'll use that as my tie to tie in when those need support. And then we have the third round bed that we just did with the trellis. Got some eggplants we planted in here, little tiny ones. They're starting to pop up. And some nasturtium in the corner. And then back over to this side and back to the zucchini. And that's the garden tour. I'll try to remember to do one in a few weeks and update it and let y'all see how it's going. Have a great day, and thanks for watching Garden Hacks.